It's portal madness. The Oklahoma Sooners lost to. What do they need to do in the transfer portal season? We'll discuss on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KREF Sports app. Josh, transfer portal season hasn't even officially started, but it's already heating up. The Oklahoma Sooners have had a couple people already into the portal: Marcus Hicks, DJ Graham, and now on Thursday we had two more entrants, or at least two more players that are making their intentions known that they are going to enter the portal. One, Jason Llewellyn, the tight end, and Tawee Walker, the running back. Josh.
Didn't really totally click for Jason Llewellyn. Obviously, injuries dating back to this past spring and throughout fall camp played a factor there. But it was a rough year in general for the tight ends for Oklahoma. Obviously, Stogner coming in was not what I, and a lot of Oklahoma fans and media members were hoping or expecting. And then the young guys, Luellen being one of them, alongside Caden Helms, because, again, injury and other factors, it didn't happen as quickly as Oklahoma would like. And obviously along the way, probably didn't play out the way that Jason Llewellyn would have liked from the coaching staff, I suppose. So I don't know if I don't think it's Panic City. You got, McIntyre, obviously, that I think Oklahoma will feel good about before it's all said and done. And you got Devon Mitchell coming in. So maybe the writing was on the wall there. And, oh, by the way, this just, I think, ramps up the importance for Oklahoma to go get a tight end now out of the transfer portal.
Yeah, we talked about the tight end position a little bit on our show for Thursday, that the tight end position is going to be in great hands when you have a guy like Devon Mitchell, who's got great size, great ability. He can catch, he can run, he can block, all those things, but he's going to be a true freshman in 2024. And do you really want to, rely on a true freshman to come in and give you starter snaps right away? If it happens, great. If he proves that he's capable of stepping in right away and being an impact player day one, then by all means, start him, let him play. But you might want to get you some veteran insurance at the tight end position. We talked about one of those big portal needs for the Sooners at tight end on Thursday. But you also got Caden Helms. I mean, that's another highly touted tight end prospect that the Oklahoma Sooners brought in the 2022 class. Similar to Luellen, injuries have been a bit of an issue, and hopefully this is the offseason where he's able to stay healthy, he's able to develop a little bit, and then he's able to hit the ground running in the fall and actually make a little bit of an impact for the Sooners. At running back, Toby Walker is entering the portal. Now, he had a really, really nice season. He's a walk-on, came through the JUCO route to Oklahoma, walked on, earned a spot, earned significant playing time, and at one point in time was Oklahoma's best running back throughout the season. The way that he ran the ball, just physical, had a toughness to him, a mindset. I mean, had a big game against SMU and was a big part of the reason that Oklahoma was able to kind of play the offensive style that they wanted to play in that game, which was very conservative and not necessarily what we wanted to see, but Tawee Walker was really good in that game and at times throughout the season as well. And then when Gavin Sawchuk kind of took over as the lead running back, Walker was still really, really good in that kind of reserve role. I think he finds a Power 5 job somewhere. It may not be at a premier program, but I know that there are going to be schools that see the way that he runs, love the physicality, love the toughness, love the way he finishes runs, and be like, we want that guy in our locker room. We want to give him 12 to 15 carries a game.
Yeah, he was really good for Oklahoma this season. At times, we thought maybe he didn't get enough of the carries early on in the season, and up until obviously that final month where Gavin Sawchuk got fully healthy and that extra gear, the acceleration, all of it seemingly just kind of clicked and came back for Gavin Sawchuk, or the light bulb came on, a combination of all of that probably. But up until that final month for Gavin Sawchuk, I mean, Tawee Walker was the guy that was Oklahoma's best running back on the most consistent basis. So 95 carries, 496 on the ground this season for Oklahoma. He'll help somebody out. Absolutely, at a Power 5 level, no doubt. He would have helped Oklahoma out maybe again next season if he had stuck around. But obviously with Sawchuk, and we'll see what Barnes' future, and you've got Hicks and Smothers. And, oh, by the way, you got Tatum coming in. So Oklahoma's going to be fine at running back. And with, again, what Sawchuk did to end the season, it makes sense that maybe Walker felt the writing for 2024 might have been on the wall. So, hey, I've done enough. I've put enough on tape to go get a Power 5 starting job somewhere. And who knows? I mean, a great season next year, we might be talking about Tawee Walker as, late rounds type NFL draft pick. And who knows what can happen from there.
Oh, for sure. To me, he's got that, fifth, sixth round kind of talent and that change of pace ability where you're going to use him on the goal line. He reminds me a lot of just a Bill Belichick type of running back, someone you're not going to give the ball to, 30 times a game, but if you need him in the fourth quarter, you need him to, get you a big, tough first down on third and short, fourth and short, third and goal, fourth and goal. He's your guy. So I think there's a future for him. But like you mentioned, I mean, the running back position is pretty well stacked with Gavin Sawchuk. Now, the key for Gavin Sawchuk, the key for Javonte Barnes, getting healthy in the offseason and staying healthy through the offseason and being ready to go week 1 of fall camp, week 1 of the regular season, because that's what kind of slowed down the running back production this year is your two guys that you expected to go into the season with as your 1A, 1B at running back weren't healthy for much of the calendar year. And even dating back to spring, these guys weren't healthy enough. And in order to develop, in order to physically mature, in order to get yourself right, get yourself ready for a grind of a 12, 13, hopefully 15 game season, you've got to be healthy through the offseason. So those are going to be key elements to these guys and their offseason work plans. But again, you mentioned Caleb Hicks, Dalen Smothers, two guys that DeMarco Murray is very high on and that the coaching staff is very high on. Brent Venables talked about Caleb Hicks in the offseason as someone who's just a good football player, just a straight up good football player. And we got to see a little bit of Dalen Smothers, and he runs much bigger than he looks. And the way he's able to, get physical with guys, he's not shying away. He's a speedster, but he also brings some toughness to the table as well. Taylor Tatum, you're bringing in Xavier Robinson from Carl Albert, and then the Andy Bass show as well from Heritage Hall. So you're pretty well stacked at running back. It's a position we talked about on our show yesterday that it's not going to be a position of need going into the transfer portal. But what are some positions of need for the Oklahoma Sooners? Where are they going to have to go? Defensive back might be a sneaky need, and we'll discuss that here after the break.
Today's episode brought to us by FanDuel Sportsbook. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers they're still red, scorching hot with FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. That's $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app's so easy to use, a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. The numbers, by the way, as we shift to college football championship weekend, still 14.5. Texas favored over Oklahoma State. This number's gone back and forth a little bit. It jumped to 6.5, I believe, yesterday. It's back down. Georgia 5.5 over Alabama. Michigan, obviously, big favorite over Iowa. Florida State, Louisville, 2.5 now for Florida State in that ACC championship game. Oregon has stayed pretty steady, 9.5-point favorite over Washington. It's a fun week, though, as conference championships almost here. FanDuel.com/lockedon to enjoy this NFL season in style. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
And if you enjoy Locked On Sooners, make sure to go check out one of our other great shows here on the Locked On Network, whether it's NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, the NHL. We've got you covered here on the Locked On Network, your team every day. Josh, portal needs, the Oklahoma Sooners will do some portal shopping. We've talked at length at different times over the last year, or really over the course of Brent Venables' tenure at Oklahoma, that at some point, the portal will be a supplementary tool. You're not going to see big 15 to 18 player classes down the road, but still, as they're continuing to build their roster in Brent Venables' vision, you're going to see them attack the portal in some certain areas, especially as they lose some of their veterans. We've talked about tight end, we talked about offensive line, and we talked about defensive line in our show yesterday, so highly recommend you go back and watch that. But Josh mentioned another couple sneaky needs for the Oklahoma Sooners, and that's cornerback and that's safety. And I think he's on point here because you're losing Woody Washington, presumably. We haven't heard anything official, but it seems like this is now kind of the time for Woody to go off to the NFL. You are losing Reggie Pearson, could be losing Key Lawrence, could be losing Billy Bowman at safety. So defensive back, it's a sneaky need.
It is. And obviously there's a lot of young talent that you feel good about. One corner, if you can just get to a point where Gentry Williams can be consistently healthy, that's one half of the equation that you feel really good about. But then from there, obviously serious competition to see, Josiah Wagner had his own health problems at times this season, and really didn't ever totally crack the rotation and impact things quite the same way. I wouldn't say that. Gentry Williams at times looked like a star for Oklahoma, and not that Josiah Wagner can't be that next season or in time for Oklahoma. We just didn't see as much of that. So that has a little bit more of a question mark at one of the corner positions. And again, you kind of have to entertain the argument that there's a question at both, because your best ability is your availability. And unfortunately for Gentry, that was obviously a problem this season. So you start there, and obviously you need somebody to step up, maybe a couple of guys to step up, which probably tells you that you need to go find somebody that's proven a proven commodity. Safety, again, Peyton Bowen, I think, is a no doubt star of the future for Oklahoma. Billy Bowman, a big time decision to be made. You'd love to get Billy Bowman back, but you probably need to make your contingency plans that that won't be the case, John.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see because as you mentioned, there's a lot of young talent on this team. Josiah Wagner, he played pretty well at times. And when he did get run here toward the end of the season, got a lot of run in the TCU game and made some really, really competitive plays. Also made some plays that true freshmen make sometimes where you just get beat. And cornerbacks get beat at every level. It doesn't matter how good you are. You're going to get beat sometimes, but the true freshman got taken advantage of a couple times out there. But that's not to diminish what he can be for the Oklahoma Sooners. It's just some growing pains. You talked about some of the injury issues. Makari Vickers, another one that had just an up and down season, inability to stay healthy throughout. Would have gotten some more run had he been able to. And again, when he was out there, showed some really good flashes that gave you encouragement about what he and Josiah Wagner could be for this team in the future. It's just, man, got to stay healthy. That is going to be critical for these young cornerbacks as they try to develop. We talked about it with Sawchuk and Barnes. That really hindered their development from year 1 to year 2. Hopefully these young corners can get healthy by the time offseason stuff starts getting going, because in order to develop, you got to be in the weight room. You got to be, on the practice field. You got to be able to do the work outside of practice too, to continue to improve the different tools and techniques that you got to have in order to be really good at your position. A lot of stuff happens on the field, but a lot of stuff happens away from the organized practice time that you got to keep working. And we know these guys are going to work. Josiah Wagner is always posting clips every time he's back home in Washington. He's working. So got to get healthy, got to stay healthy. That's critical. At safety, Peyton Bowen, he's a bona fide star in the making. But again, another player who dealt with some injury issues. And maybe this is just a, transitioning from high school ball to college. The physicality steps up. The speed steps up, and you're going to get dinged up a little bit easier, maybe because you're not quite built for it just yet. You're not quite Schmitty built 100% yet, but it's coming. You get a second full off season with Schmitty and the strength and conditioning staff and the nutrition staff, and you get your body a little bit more prepared. I mean, I think we saw at different times the same thing happen with some of the true freshmen a year ago. It's just a part of acclimating to life at college football. And I mean, I think this is going to come, but I like where they're at safety, and that you've got, Robert Spears Jennings got a lot of experience this year, as Reggie Pearson dealt with some injuries and Key Lawrence had some up and down play. They got Robert Spears Jennings out on the field, and he was an impact player. I mean, several times in the box was making big time plays in the run game, or when he was playing in the deep safety position, cleaning stuff up in the run game that, the defensive line wasn't taken care of, the linebacker level wasn't taken care of. And then here comes Robert Spears Jennings with his speed, just bringing guys down. So the safety position, like cornerback, it's got a bright future there. And then there's a Day McCullough. We saw Dasan McCullough flash quite a bit this year. Day hadn't really gotten a chance to get on the field much, but has got great athleticism, great size in his own right, and could be an impact player for you. So the future is really looking sharp. Oh, and that doesn't even include like an Eric McCarty, who was out for the entire year, recovering from the ACL injury he suffered in the Oklahoma State high school playoffs a year ago. So you've got some intriguing young options at safety like you do at cornerback, but there's not a lot of experience there if you're relying on just those young guys. So it would not surprise me at all to see the Oklahoma Sooners go into the portal, attack the cornerback position to at least get one veteran option. Now you got Kendall Dolby back, but he seemed to really solidify a role as one of the cheetahs on this team. You don't have Woody Washington. Tawee Walker got a lot of run, but he's not necessarily as experienced. So if you can go get a veteran corner and a veteran safety to do what we talk about all the time on the show, have a solid floor, and then allow everything to battle itself out and let your best players rise to the top. And if that's your young players, great. If it's your veteran option, great. Competition is going to help bring the best out of everybody.
Justin Harrington, a name that I don't know, the couple of years that I've been doing this with you, it's like, is this the year for Justin Harrington?
This year looked like the year.
It looked like it was. So now, obviously he was listed cheetah, but that's somebody that gives you a little bit of flexibility, right? You get him back into the equation, and assuming that he's back full speed and that's the year that he can stay healthy and everything works, that allows Peyton Bowen to stick at safety. And so that would actually be, I think, beneficial. Justin Harrington, a good billing of health. That would be a nice sign for Oklahoma, but I don't think there's any doubt. Again, as you pointed out, probably not the long-term plan for Oklahoma to have to be supplemental at every position every single year, right? I mean, I think you and a couple of freshmen are going to help Oklahoma out. I have no doubt about that next year in the defensive backfield, probably at corner and safety both at times. We just don't know who those players are just yet for Oklahoma. But that being said, even though you want to get to the point to where it's develop within guy in year 2 or year 3, right, of the program, now all of a sudden it's their turn to go start and play a lot of football. The early returns so far in the Venables era, and I know that we're not maybe far enough down the road to totally make this declaration, but look, they've supplemented both corner and safety each of the last 2 off seasons. So I have no doubt that we're going to see that happen again.
But what positions don't they need to go after in the transfer portal? We'll discuss that next. If you're enjoying Locked On Sooners, make sure you stick around. Locked On Sports Dallas, Locked On Sports Today, the 24/7 live streaming channels coming at you right after this show. Stick around here on YouTube. Transfer portal needs are going to be a hot topic for the Sooners, but there's several positions that I think they don't need to address in the transfer portal. Let's start with the most obvious one, and maybe this isn't obvious to a lot of people, but I think quarterback is a position they don't need to worry about. Now, you could argue that maybe they need to go get an improved backup option compared to Davis Bevel. You could do that, but it's the old Peyton Manning adage, right? If Peyton Manning goes down, we're screwed, and we don't practice screwed. So if Davis Bevel if Jackson Arnold were to go down and you have to go to a backup option, honestly, I'd rather them roll out Michael Hawkins as opposed to Davis Bevel. But Bevel gives you kind of that veteran presence, a guy that's been in the room now. If he sticks with Oklahoma, will be his third offseason, his third season, and just a good voice. And he seems to be like a guy that is on that coaching track of things where, yeah, maybe there's a playing future for him at some point, but just based on the way his career has gone thus far, that he's probably down the coaching, quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator track at this point. So having a veteran in the ear of your young quarterbacks, helping them to understand the playbook and develop, I think that's a valuable thing. But I think quarterback otherwise is not really a position they're going to have to worry about in the portal.
Well, definitely not in the sense that you're trying to go, win a Jackson Dart recruitment,
Right.
or Dylan Gabriel, or, it doesn't sound like now you're running into the scenario where you got to work too hard to retain Jackson Arnold, right? I mean, it sounds like that piece of the recruiting puzzle has been successful, which that's the most important one. They already won the transfer portal, John, because they kept Jackson Arnold out of it.
Yep.
In the midst of an offensive coordinator transition. So I'm with you. I mean, maybe you go get some form or fashion of depth help, but it will not be significant help, because when you got the starting quarterback in place and he's a 5-star in Jackson Arnold, you don't go get another blue chip talent out of the portal. They don't say yes to you. So even if you wanted to, I don't think you could if you're Oklahoma. I mean, the addition that they would make will not be substantial there. So I agree with you. Quarterback, you're set. Running back, I think you're okay at running back, even with Tawee Walker's decision, assuming that everybody else stays put and, you keep Hicks, you keep Smothers, Barnes comes back and all of a sudden he's healthy. Sacha clearly is not thinking about anything except coming back and being Oklahoma's featured runner, with the way that obviously he put up all the century mark games that he did at the end of this season. And then Tatum, who you have coming in. So I think you're good at running back. Linebacker, I mean, I feel like they're in pretty good shape at linebacker with who they have on campus and the way that they've been recruiting there. What do you make? I mean, linebacker, do they need a linebacker?
I agree. I 100% agree. And I even put it out on Twitter Thursday night. I said, several positions that I felt like they didn't need to address, and linebacker was one of them. Whether or not Danny Stutzman comes back, if Danny Stutzman decides to go to the NFL, I still feel good about what this linebacker group can be, because you've got really good players in Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis and Jaren Kanak. For all of the roller coaster ride that Jaren Kanak was this season, there were a lot of ups and downs, like there was for a lot of guys in the front seven. I still feel like there's a really great player to be had there. His first year as a starter, it went like Danny Stutzman's first year as a starter, just highs and lows, and he's going to have an opportunity. Now, he didn't have the tackle numbers that Danny Stutzman had in his first year as a starter, but he had some really great games. I look back to the Texas game where he was really, really good in that one. And then he had some moments where you're like, okay, this is a guy that needs to continue to get better. But you have Kobe, Jaren, Kip Lewis obviously showed a lot this season that he's going to be somebody that, especially if he continues to get bigger, can add some more size to be able to hold up to the blocking that you have to deal with if you're playing in the front seven. I think that's going to help him get better. And we know Brent Venables absolutely loves himself some Lewis Carter, Samuel Omasigo, Phil Picciotti. I mean, they're young. They didn't get to play much this year, but there's a lot of talent in that group that came in the 2023 signing class.
I feel like wide receiver, Oklahoma's in a pretty good spot going into next season. I mean, obviously, with any of this conversation, the right player comes into the situation, and you don't just turn away, even with what's going on in running back. If somehow a superstar running back lands in your lap, obviously you wouldn't even turn that away, right? But that would be among the least likely. Quarterback would be the one where obviously you're not doing anything there because you got Jackson Arnold. But I say that to say at wide receiver, I think you're okay. You got a lot of young talent. To me, what you don't do is you don't go get an LV Bunkley Shelton out of this cycle. You don't need to take a chance on, say, a Brennan Thompson in this go around. So in Brennan Thompson, it might wind up being a really good receiver at Oklahoma. And that's not to throw a bunch of shade at LV Bunkley Shelton either. If it's a proven wide receiver commodity, okay, come on down. But if it's someone that, okay, you're just sort of projecting, I don't think you're in the business at that position of wide receiver to have to do that in this go around. I think if it's proven goods at wide receiver, you say yes. But if it's, again, sort of the LV Bunkley Shelton, Brennan Thompson, where maybe there wasn't just this rock star amount of production, then maybe you look a different direction.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because with what you've got coming back, Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, Angelo Anthony returning, healthy at some point next year, Brennan Thompson, Jaquays Petaway, just that group alone, you're looking pretty good. I mean, if that's your top 4 going into next year, then you're feeling great about where you're at. If Jalil Farouk comes back, which I think is a likelihood, I think that's a high possibility, then you have a really nice group of Power 5 wide receivers that you can build your offense around. Nick Anderson was your breakout player of the year, like easily. The dude averaged 23 yards per reception, was just one behind Drake Stoops for the team lead in touchdowns. He was phenomenal. Jaden Gibson, you look at that dude and you're like, how is it that we weren't playing him more? Because every time he got on the field, he made plays. He had 13 catches and 5 touchdowns. Where was he all year? Come on, man. Anyway. And then Brennan Thompson showed off his speed towards the end of the season when he got on the field. And I'm sorry, I love Dylan. Now, Brennan Thompson might prove that wrong, but there's going to be far fewer opportunities that that's going to actually be the case. And then you talk about the group that you've got coming up. You've got Zion Kearney, Zion Reagans, assuming these guys sign. You've got Ivan Carrion. You've got KJ Daniels. That's a nice group of 4 wide receivers that allow you to sit back and then just continue to develop your own. Let Emmett Jones do his work and build these guys into legit studs, where you're right, man. You don't got to give practice reps away for guys that, okay, yeah, they were a 4-star wide receiver back in the day, but haven't really done much in their first year or 2 in college. I'm sorry, there's not a place for you here. Now, if you're a Jordan Addison and you won the Biletnikoff and you want to come to Oklahoma, okay, we'll make room for you. But I don't think there's a Jordan Addison that's going to be out there in this cycle that's necessarily coming to Oklahoma. But you've got some bona fide studs in your wide receiver room right now. And Nick Anderson proved it. Jaden Gibson, when he got the opportunities to be on the field, I mean, that's a dude that right there that's got some CeeDee Lamb to him, in my opinion. Like, he's got that wide receiver 1 kind of mentality, that dog, edge mentality. That's like, my ball every single time. You're not stopping me. I don't care what the coverage is. And you love to see that. So I think they're great at wide receiver. And for me, that's about it. Like, those 4 spots are about the only places I'm not really concerned about. You could talk me maybe into a little bit of linebacker just to get a veteran presence to go along with that youth. But other than that, I think you don't need to look for a starter at linebacker, quarterback, wide receiver, or even running back. I think you're really good to go.
That's why I say there's always, outside of quarterback with Jackson Arnold, you're not bringing in a Heisman Trophy contender to supplant Jackson Arnold. It's his show. It's go time for JFA. But everywhere else, I mean, look, if there's an All-American type or has been an all ACC or all Big Ten or all SEC, all Pac-12, all Big 12 performer that comes knocking at the door, okay, you'll answer, even though you feel pretty good about the positions that we talked about. And then, offensive line, everywhere on the offensive line, I think Oklahoma would accept help. Everywhere on the defensive line, Oklahoma would accept help. And I think at corner and safety. So really, I guess what we're saying is a large portion of the roster, sure. If you have the right situation to upgrade it, you'll take it. And there's a couple position groups that probably you would.
That's right. And one last note on the offensive line. Assuming Rame goes to the NFL, Matire goes, Guyton goes, Rouse goes, about the only dude that is solidified and a bona fide starter going into next year, that's Caden Green. So you got a lot of work to do on the offensive line this offseason. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, subscribing to the show. Thank you for being a supporter of this show. It means the world to us that you tune in every single day with us. We are your team every day here on the Locked On Sooners podcast. and on the Locked On Network. Follow Josh on Twitter at Josh on Ref, myself at John9Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners and on Facebook, Locked On Sooners Podcast. Tune in to the Locked On Sports Today or the Locked On Sports Dallas shows streaming live 24/7 here on YouTube right after this show. But until next time, he's Josh Helmer. I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooners.